Despite being bullied, scorned, and oppressed all of his life, a 34-year-old Shutton still found the resolve to attempt something heroic by trying to save a girl from being hit by a truck, only for it to end in a tragic accident. But in a twist of fate, he awakens in another world as Rudius Garrett, starting life again as a baby born to two loving parents. Preserving his memories and knowledge from his previous life, Rudius quickly adapts to his new environment, while his parents and their maid thought that Rudius was a rather weird child as he did not cry much, and he used to stare at Dot with the mind of a grown adult. He starts to display magical talent that exceeds all expectations, honing his skill with the help of a mage named Roxy McGurdia. Rudius learns swordplay from his father, Paul, and meets Sylphiette, a girl his age who quickly becomes his closest friend. Rudius starts teaching Sylphiette magic, but after a while Rudius finds himself stuck without any progress with his magic or sword skills. This made him think about going to the university that Roxy had suggested, but this meant leaving Sylphiette and others behind, so he talked to his parents if they could afford to give both his and Sylphiette's fee to attend the university, which they declined. Rudius decided to get a job so he could make money and pay for Sylphiette's fee himself, to which his father agreed. Later, Ghislaine, a sword master, visited them and took Rudius along to Paul's distant brother's house, who was a noble, so Rudius could tutor Eris, technically his cousin, in magic, arithmetic and language. While this was going on, Roxy was tutoring the seventh prince of a kingdom who was a pervert, but she somehow managed. Eris was a rather rude and stubborn girl, so he had trouble winning her trust, but she eventually started trusting Rudius when he saved her from kidnappers. Then, they went back to the palace and Rudius took both Eris and Ghislaine as his students and started teaching them. Eris was keen on learning magic, but she hated studying arithmetic and language. At the same time, she had to learn to dance for her 10th birthday party, but she couldn't do that either, so Rudius took up the task to teach her how to dance and succeeded with it. Then, on the big day, she failed at pulling off the dance 2 or 3 times, but with Rudius, she pulled it off well. Meanwhile, a weird ball-like object had appeared in the sky which troubled Eris's grandfather, but Rudius thought it probably wasn't anything serious. As the bond between Eris and Rudius was growing closer, Eris's father asked Rudius to lend him a hand in overthrowing the entire kingdom and becoming the king. In return, he could have Eris in his bed for the night. Rudius declined, but when he went back to his room he saw Eris. Some things happened, but before they would do anything, Eris told him that they would only do it after they turned 15. Then, one fine day Rudius took Eris and Ghislaine to a clear ground to show them his strongest magic, but as he started reading the incantation, someone came down from the sky to check what was going on, but Ghislaine protected them. After this, there was a massive explosion. Suddenly, Rudius was in his old body, naked, with the man-god standing next to him. The man-god told him that this is a dream and this body is only his spiritual form. Once he wakes up he will be back to being Rudius. The man-god told him that he was caught in a mana disaster which transported everyone, and he was now in the demon land, and when he wakes up there will be a man nearby. Rudius must trust that man. He woke up, and there he was, Ruijerd, a superd who promised that he would help them get back home safely. Ruijerd then told them about his story and why people are afraid of the superds and how he wants to correct that, after which Rudius promised to help him as well. As their bond started growing stronger, they decided to go to a nearby city as adventurers and help people so they would not get scared of superds anymore, which didn't exactly work out. They were first mocked by others when they named their party Dead End, which was Ruijerd's nickname, as people did not believe a superd would actually visit the city. They first saved a few adventurers in a forest, after which during his time in the city Rudius got a demon eye from the demon queen, and Ruijerd even shaved off his head and started wearing a bandana as green hair and a gemstone on the forehead were the main appearance traits of superds. Meanwhile, Roxy was looking for Rudius's family along with her party as they had gone missing as well during the mana explosion. Rudius, on the other hand, went out to rescue some smuggled animals and children, but in order to do so they had to fight off an army. Ruijerd decided to escort the kidnapped kids back home, and at the same time Rudius went to save the imprisoned dog. He freed the dog from a spell, and they started cuddling, but a man came in and attacked Rudius, mistaking him for the smugglers. Rudius got paralyzed temporarily, and the man's father came in, who said the kid did not look like a smuggler. They took Rudius and imprisoned him in their village, where he met another prisoner named Keys. Rudius decided to escape the prison, but Keys was too scared to do it until the entire village caught fire and they had to escape. Rudius went on to save the village using his demon eye and predicting the smuggler boss's moves. Later everyone apologized to Rudius for imprisoning him, and he got to know that the guy who imprisoned him was actually Ghislaine's brother, who hated Ghislaine as she left the village long back, giving up on her duties. Rudius and Eris told them about Ghislaine's deeds and how she had now become a sword master. This made her brother soften up a bit, and he told Rudius that Ghislaine is now welcome in the village. Meanwhile, Eris was teaching the chieftain's granddaughter how to use the sword, but when she got to know that Eris will leave soon, they started fighting. They finally left the village after a while and took keys with them. It had been over 1.5 years since they had been teleported, and Rudius finally met his dad at a pub. They got into a fight as Paul was disappointed that Rudius didn't try rescuing his mother and others who went missing. Paul soon realized his mistake for getting so harsh with Rudius. And they eventually made up, as Rudius was getting flashbacks of his past life and how miserable he was and how strong Paul is compared to him at that age. On the other hand, Roxy had finally gotten to her hometown, and the horse that Ryajard beat up told Roxy about the party named Dead End. She didn't think much about it and went straight to her parents' house. She revisited all her memories of how she was bullied and seen as an outsider because she did not have the ability to use telepathy, but she apologized to her family for running away without saying anything. She then left her home after a few days to continue her search, but before leaving she got to know that Rudius had visited her home about 2 years ago with Eris and Rujard the Supered. Roxy fainted hearing this as she suspected that he really had the original Dead End on his side. Roxy then ran into the Demon Queen and asked her about Rudius's family and their whereabouts, and she got to know that all of them are still alive. Soon they got to the city, where Roxy was tutoring the perverted prince, and here Rudius met Aisha, Paul and their maid's daughter, who told him that her brother was a panty thief and a pervert. Soon Rudius got an invite and got escorted to the palace where the prince resided. He was taken to meet the prince, and he saw that their maid Lilia was held captive there. Soon he was trapped in a magic prison by the prince in an attempt to blackmail Roxy to come back to the palace as she had run away. Later, the third prince of the same kingdom came to visit Rudius and started going crazy about the little Roxy statue that Rudius had made that they confiscated from his bag. He got to know that he had shaved off an important part of the statue and request Rudius to fix it, and in return he forcefully told the seventh prince to set Rudius free. Meanwhile, Rujard and Eris had already gotten to the palace and ensured to save the families of the soldiers because the seventh prince kidnapped them so the soldiers wouldn't betray him. Soon, this situation was over and they sent Aisha and Lilia back to safety. They left that city as well, but on their way to the top of a dragon mountain, they ran into the second most powerful god, the Dragon King Orsted, and a girl who was traveling with him. Rudius asked about the Mana disaster, but when he mentioned man-god, Orsted attacked him, defeating Eris and Rujard and then putting a hole in Rudius's chest. There he was again, in his old body next to man-god, completely hopeless as according to him he had died. Man-god told him that first, the Superds had a bad rep because Laplace, their master, had bypassed his own curse onto the Superds, and secondly, Rudius was not dead. Apparently the woman whispered something in Orsted's ear, after which they casted a healing spell on Rudius. After recovering he told the same to Rujard, and after hearing that the curse was wearing off, Rujard got relieved. Then, they parted ways with Rujard as they had reached Eris's hometown, where later they got to know that her grandfather, mother and father had been killed, but Ghislaine was safe, and the kingdom was in pure chaos. Eris was really sad and frustrated, so she made out with Rudius at night and left in the morning, leaving a note behind that said, "We are not a perfect match right now." Rudius was completely shocked, getting flashbacks of his old life and his current past. But he could not lie there forever. He got up and aimed to find his mother. On the other hand, on top of the Dragon Mountain, there were talks about Rudius, and there was an elf woman, Sylphiette, but why were they talking about him? And did Rudius end up saving his mother? Hit the subscribe button and we will make another recap of this when the third season comes out so you can get the answer to these questions. Like the video and tell us whether you like the anime or not in the comments, and we will see you in the next recap.